Well, welcome everyone to our Supporting Student Success with QM Standards and Text-to-Speech Technology. I'm Jim Snyder from Quality Matters, the Director of Marketing Engagement here. I'm going to just have 2 slides explaining what Quality Matters is before I kick it over to Colleen again. But Quality Matters is a global organization leading quality assurance in online and innovative digital teaching and learning environments. It provides a scalable quality assurance system for online and blended learning used within and across organizations. And when you see the QM certification marks on courses or programs, it means they have met QM course design standards or QM program review criteria in a rigorous review process. Quality Matters has over 1,300 member institutions in over 30 countries, used by higher ed, K-12, and other organizations offering continuing education and professional development. It's a scalable process led by credentialed reviewers that's based on feedback and continuous improvement. QM certified courses are recognized as quality courses at the national level. Next slide. And I'll put these in the chat just so you have them, but a few free links, because you come to a webinar, you should get something from Quality Matters, at least a link to our upcoming free webinars. We do webinars like these every so often. We have a accessibility and usability resource site. So if you're looking for tools for that, we have a site that is free for everyone to go to. We have some guidelines, a bridge to quality online course design guides for both higher ed and K-12 that sort of act as a bridge to our standards. We have access, everyone has access to our QM research library. And then because we're talking about accessibility and usability today, we do have a professional development course, which really focuses in on our standard 8, addressing accessibility and usability. And then lastly, hopefully, we'll see lots of you. ReadSpeaker will be at our QM Connect conference this November in Chicago. So hopefully we'll see others there as well. So that's enough about Quality Matters. I'll throw it over to you, Colleen.
Great. Thank you so much. First of all, before we dive in, I just want to say thank you to Jim and Quality Matters for partnering with us and helping us bring our panelists together to bring you information about the intersection between Quality Matters standards, inclusive course design, universal design for learning, and how assistive technology kind of dovetails right in there. So first of all, thank you so much to Jim and our friends at Quality Matters. So today we're going to be talking about the intersection of the QM standards, ReadSpeaker, and how we support the universal design for learning. And we have some panelists here with us today. Before we dive over to them, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Colleen Sandquist. I am the Strategic Partner Manager for ReadSpeaker, and alongside me is my colleague, Ginger Dewey, and I will let you introduce yourself there, Miss Ginger.
Hi, I'm Ginger Dewey. I am the Educational Development Manager here at ReadSpeaker. Basically, that means I do your onboarding, your training, and help you throughout the life of your contract with us. Colleen?
Very, very good. Okay, so we have our esteemed panelists here with us today. So we're going to start by letting Miss Beatriz introduce herself. Go ahead, Beatriz.
Hello, my name is Beatriz Flores-Martinez, and I'm an instructional design specialist here at Laredo College. I've been with Laredo College for the last 15 years and with my e-learning team for the last 6 years. We look forward to sharing with you any ideas that we have regarding UDL, regarding adaptive technology, and anything to do with usability and accessibility.
Excellent. We're so happy you're here. And now, Candace, I'd like you to take just a moment, introduce yourself to our attendees. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Candace McPherson. I've been an educator in the K-12 space for about 18 years, and I've been with Virtual Arkansas, a state virtual program, for about 7 or 8 years now. And my role is to assist teachers and our whole organization and all its services with the digital course content that teachers use and students access. So we help teachers build that. We facilitate that through an organized process. And we love QM and we love ReadSpeaker, and I look forward to talking more about it with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Miss Paula, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Paula McDougald. I work with Candace in the Virtual Arkansas Design and Development Department. I am the lead course design and development specialist. Also, like Candace, I have about 20 years of experience in the K-12 education space. I've taught every level of high school math, from the most basic to the most advanced. In the last 9 years, I have been part of Virtual Arkansas, and I've been out of the classroom and in the instructional design space for about 6 to 7 of those years at this point, working with Candace and the rest of our team. I'm primarily responsible for project managing all of our course design and development projects. I'm also the QM coordinator for Virtual Arkansas. So like Candace said, we absolutely love QM and love ReadSpeaker and are very glad to be here today.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for those introduction, ladies. As you can tell, we have a wealth of experience and knowledge in our panelists today. We invite you to drop your questions into the chat, and Ginger's going to be monitoring that, and we will bring some to the panelists and we will just get started. So we've got a lot of exciting questions to dive into and a great panel of ladies to join us here today. So before we get started, we're going to talk just a touch about ReadSpeaker. So did you know that ReadSpeaker, hold on, has been providing text-to-speech to institutions all across the country and around the world. We offer over 300 voices in 68 different languages, and we are creating new voices all the time. And I'm particularly fond of this particular element because of the different voices that are available through ReadSpeaker to really help your students identify with the content that they are working in. Next up, we talk about our implementation and how easy it is to implement our solutions into learning management systems. It is simply an injection of a JavaScript or a block that gets installed in your learning management system, and then we have got access for all. Our LMS admins do truly love ReadSpeaker. Of course, we know what's necessary for some is good for all. So when we look at supporting all learners across all environments, we do have this integration, which makes it super easy to provide access for all of your students. And then, of course, accessibility tools that are compatible with the proctoring solutions that are out on the market today. So we're really, really excited about the compatibility that we offer. It makes it really easy for our administrators and educators, and even easier for our students to have access to, which is the most important. And then, of course, finally, we are celebrating 25 years of voice. We are happy to be with you today. We thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to learn more with us. So as the partner manager, I get newsletters and emails all the time from our partners that come across my inbox. And this statement was particularly impactful for me, and it came from One Ed Tech. And they said, in the digital era, where technology is an integral part of the learning process, making ed tech tools accessible is not only a moral imperative, right? It's the right thing we do. It's a means to unlock the potential for all learners and promote that academic success. So we have got a couple of really impactful words on the screen: an integral part, in moral imperative, unlocking students' potential. Really, really powerful words. And so when we think about the incorporation of assistive technology into the learning environment, we have studies that have proven that this is something that is very, very impactful for students. What you're looking at here is some data from a Smarter Balanced assessment research data. So we're looking at an assessment over time here. So we've got 4 days where text-to-speech is not provided. The middle 4 days, we're showing an increase of correct answers in the assessment environment when text-to-speech is provided. And then when text-to-speech is removed, we see that that dropped down just a little bit. We know that text-to-speech helps learners gain access. We also know that it helps in retention. And here we have text-to-speech on the input, on an input thought process. But let's now look at output. Okay, so when we talk about output, we talk about students using text-to-speech in a writing environment. So when students have written work using text-to-speech or that proof listening as opposed to silently proof reading, we are seeing that 12.3% more errors are detected. So text-to-speech is great on the input, and it is also great on the output. So lots of different ways we can incorporate text-to-speech and the other accessibility pieces that are part of the ReadSpeaker solutions. So one more piece of data. This is a longitudinal study over the course of time. 9th graders who had IEPs or 504s or were identified when they were in K-12 environment. When they move on to higher ed, only about 1/3 of the students are actually disclosing their need for support, accessibility features, tools, things of that nature. So 37% are reporting that. So that tells us that we have a whole lot of students that are not actually coming forth, raising their hand to need help, but really do. Additionally, we know that this is a priority for students and higher ed professionals, that digital access should be a priority. And we are finding, and actually I was very shocked, we just are getting off the kind of the conference circuit, and there are a number of institutions out there, more than I actually would believe, that are not providing solutions today to learners in their institutions. So we know that this is a need, we know that it is impactful, and people are telling us that they want this availability. So we're going to get right into our panel discussion. So I appreciate you giving me that time. So let's start out with our first question. How has using the QM standards changed or enhanced the instructional design process? So I'm going to kick this over to Candace, and she is going to lead our discussion here today.
Thank you, Colleen. So really, we adopted QM standards to enhance our instructional design process because we wanted to prove the effectiveness of online learning in a very skeptical world. Our organization started, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And at the beginning, many of our teachers would say they would go to professional developments with brick and mortar classroom teachers, and they would feel like almost like aliens in the room, or like, oh, you are those people who are going to steal our jobs and everything's going to be online in the future and we're scared of you. There was also this thought that, well, you can't do that online. Kids can't learn like that online. And so in order to help people understand that when done effectively and following best practices, online learning does work and it does meet the need for learners, we found QM, and it came on as a strong ally for us to help fight against that narrative of skepticism. Of course, the pandemic came along, and there was another aspect of that we had to address. The second aspect was QM became a core part of our design process, so we could really ensure that we were designing courses in a quality way. So our course templates, all the methodologies of the process bounce off of that. We do a development review of each course and module, and it is aligned to the best practices in the QM annotations. in addition to some of our own organizational standards for how things look and flow. So grateful for QM coming on as an ally to help solve those two big issues.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Beatriz, from a higher ed perspective, what can you tell us about the QM standards and your instructional design practices?
Like Candace, our team here at Laredo College has been emphasizing quality matters. Quality Matters is also our ally, our partner in creating enhanced courses with the best online education we can provide our students. There are many reasons how QM standards have changed or enhanced our institutional design. For one, we actually have a template, a QM template, and this QM template keeps it consistent for all our all of our online courses. The structured framework that QM offers our institution for our course design it really provides the design process to be organized in a way that faculty can easily implement the standards. And through implementation, our courses have gone through QM certification. We have more than 130 courses that have gone through QM certification. And it's been a very great experience implementing the QM standards, not only for our faculty, but particularly for our learners. And that's what we like about QM. QM focuses on the learner, and it has helped us improve tremendously, enhancing our learning outcomes. Recently, with the update of the 7th edition, now it requires a course map. Before, in the 6th edition, we were already implementing it. When I came on board, one of the first things I started doing was the course map, which is perfect because it helps with the alignment of the courses. It enhances our courses. And so with the enhancement of our courses, we have increased student engagement, and not only the engagement, the interactive design, but the accessibility. The content that our faculty are creating, it enhances greatly when the QM standards are implemented, and our students can see everything that the faculty have created as far as accessibility and usability. It would be unfortunate, right, if our faculty were to have created this wonderful, beautiful content and then it's not accessible. So with QM standards and them implementing it, it has enhanced our courses tremendously. And then something that QM offers us as a partner is professional development. Through professional development, I myself have learned so much. You know, we are here all lifelong learners. And so the training and certification that QM offers is what has enhanced also our faculty to be able to implement the QM standards.
I love that. Thank you so much. The three of you weave such a beautiful tale of how the QM standards are impacting your institutions. I love that, and just some great dialogue taking place. So let's go ahead and take a look at question number 2. So we always love to talk about what's easy and what is working, but we know it's not always like that when we get into an academic environment. We do sometimes experience challenges and difficulties. So when we're thinking about the QM standards, which one was the most difficult for you to incorporate into the course design, and how did you overcome this challenge? And Candace, if I can ask you to take this question first, that would be great.
Sure thing. So it really depends on when you would have asked me this question, but in recent years, I felt that 4.6C in the K-12 standards, which says the course content strives to reflect a culturally diverse perspective that is free from bias. And I think that standard in itself is just a challenging standard to really meet authentically when you have maybe a single individual designing a course. That person's going to be limited by their own perspectives and their own training their own experiences with different cultures. And that's just a hard one to meet. Layered on top of that, in the K-12 space, especially in the last 3 years or so, we've seen an intensifying sense of antagonism and, I guess, distrust toward public education and the curriculum that's chosen. And so, like, our state about 3 years ago passed a law that any parent could challenge a public school curriculum, and the public school had to have a grievance process and address that. And it had to meet certain criteria. So the difficult part there, while there may be good things about having those conversations with your stakeholders and really making sure that the understanding there is why we're learning this in the background, is the opinions around this topic are as many as the day is long and then some. And so we're trying really hard to meet this with fidelity. Some of the things we've been doing is our course design teams involve more than just one person typically. So that's one piece. Secondly, we try to pull in things that reflect our students in Arkansas. We want to make sure we're representing all the cultures in Arkansas, all the regions of Arkansas, and what their lives are like, not just the students that are in what we would call a city here in our little tiny state, but also those students who have to run out at lunch and put the cows back in the pen. I mean, that still happens. So, we want to really help students connect with the curriculum and connect with their learning. And so we have to make sure that we're bringing in the diverse experiences and perspectives that those students have.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And really, when we talk about students seeing themselves in the curriculum, identity is a big theme, an overarching theme of the new UDL guidelines, the 3.0 that just got released. So I love that Virtual Arkansas is already taking that and prioritizing that identity piece, because I believe that if students can see and hear themselves in the curriculum, that they are really going to engage in that on a very deep level, which is fantastic. Paula, wondering if you have anything that you would like to add?
Yes, absolutely. So, Candace, thank you for speaking to one of the standards that we definitely have found challenging in the last few years, especially. There are two standards that just continually come up as a challenge, and I think these are challenging for anyone in any space in terms of accessibility and online education, and that is those are standards 8.3C and 8.4C, which deal specifically with accessibility. Those are inevitably with any standard, with any course that I have been a part of within our own organization and within my roles with QM as a master reviewer. I've also seen this to be difficult for other organizations. So in particular, when you're looking at a course that relies very heavily on images as a needed foundational part of course content, for example, a math course or a science course that relies very heavily on detailed graphs and diagrams to present content and experiences to students, it's often very, very hard to present descriptive, authentic alt text for these very complex images. And so we continually work with our project teams to overcome this challenge by giving them examples of appropriate alt text, by incorporating image descriptions instead of just using alt text. So giving a more descriptive version than what could fit in that small space, so that there is something that ReadSpeaker can read for students who are not able to be able to see those images the way that we would hope that they could. We also work with teams to coach them through one-off situations, because inevitably there's going to be something that comes up that doesn't really fit the norm, and we need to talk through the best way to approach that image. One other thing that has been incredibly helpful for us is establishing collegial relationships with organizations that are similar to ours. We often feel like we work in a silo in online education, and it's really, really important to establish relationships with others who do things that are similar to what you do, because that gives you the opportunity to engage with leaders in accessibility in those organizations and work together to just stay on the forefront of the ways that you can use the tools that you have available, that you share, that are common amongst you, to just invest in each other and invest in ways that you can continually work to improve accessibility for your own students in your state or in your organization, as well as across the US and beyond, especially for those specialty subject areas that might be really tricky as far as accessibility is concerned. So relationships, ReadSpeaker, and really trying to coach people through has been a really big help for us with those two standards in particular.
Yeah, what I'm hearing from the two of you is that teamwork, relationship building, networking, working together is really going to help solve some of the challenges that you're experiencing. We are stronger and better together. So reach out and engage. So Beatriz, would you like to take a shot at this?
Yes.
Great.
So the QM standard, which is most difficult to incorporate into course design and how we've overcome it. So like Candace, or sorry, like it was mentioned right now, Standard 8.3 and 8.5 have always been a great challenge. And the reason why is because it's not something that you just fix once and that's it. It's something that's ongoing. And so it requires a lot of technical knowledge. It requires a lot of resource intensiveness and, of course, continuous updates. So at our institution, when I came on board to e-learning, we started with we still have it in place. It's called the Faculty eLearning Academy. And through the academy, our faculty are trained on how to resolve accessibility issues. And so through resolving those issues, they're able to implement it into their course. And it's a challenge because we need to not only they need to learn how to use the different tools that we have and then implement them into the course. And so, like I said, if accessibility is broken, then there's no point in all the wonderful content that our faculty have created. So our institution emphasizes professional development. And to this date, we have what is called the online teaching certification that our faculty go through. And so this was implemented back in 2022. And so once OTC took off, Blackboard Ally, which is our training component for accessibility, is now required for all faculty who are going to teach online or hybrid courses. And with that implementation, it greatly improved even our QM reviews. One of the QM reviews, we would always get amendments in our final reports was accessibility. It was 8.3. And so with 8.3, making sure that the course is accessible also came to become a challenge precisely last year. Our institution right now, or last year, began a transition to OER, Open Educational Resources, for our academic courses. And one of the first challenges that we came across was that our PDFs we would click on them, but we were not able to read them. And this is when we actually reached out to ReadSpeaker. And ReadSpeaker, we told them, we have the tool, what's going on? How can we fix this? How can we make it work? Because not only were the instructional materials that were being used in the course were the PDFs, but now they link to external domains, to third-party And so to get to the repository and to have it read to our students, this is where standard 8.5 comes into play, right? Making sure that video and audio content in the course is accessible. Well, at first it seemed like something impossible. So we kept in connection with ReadSpeaker. We then met at QM Connect last year, and Miss Ginger was like, let's meet up again. And so it turns out that before our students who had disabilities, they had to create a TextAid account, and then they were given access to be able to use the dog reader and to be able to use all these other great features that ReadSpeaker had in play. So once the integration came into play, one of our team members, Hannah, she did the integration, and voila, now we could go into the course, click on the document, and now the document reads to the students. And then also something that I really liked in the course design that we currently have is the ReadSpeaker extension. So a lot of our, like I mentioned, a lot of our courses are now using links to their textbooks, to the repositories. And so now with the ReadSpeaker extension, students can listen to anything online. And so it's been a challenge overcoming it. It's a continuous process. But addressing these challenges, using these targeted strategies that we have implemented through our online teaching certification and with QM standards. So part of the OTC is also that our faculty go through DYOC and they go through the APP QMR. So everything comes to a full circle in meeting these challenges and overcoming these challenges. And in all, it becomes a more manageable place for our students to have that sense of belonging, of learning. And so that's our main goal, making sure that everything is accessible to our students. So although we face these challenges, at the end, the results have been very effective for our student success.
You know what, Beatriz, that's just such a wonderful story, because there was a story of challenge, there was a story of persistence, and a story of success at the end. So thank you so much for working so hard for your students and using ReadSpeaker as a resource, because we are partners and we're here for you. So Ginger, it looks like you have a question for us from our attendees.
Yes, I do. We have the question, how much interaction is required in a blended course? Would discussions be enough?
Okay, who would like to address the question from our panelists? Any ideas?
I know that Jim posted QM's definitions of course formats and blended learning. Definitely go by that. I'll say in our practice, like when we actually get a course out there in the blended environment, I don't think just discussions would be enough. I think that too, I'm looking forward to some innovation in the way discussion happens online. I think that's one of the pain points that we have. Students don't really like doing them, and teachers hate grading them. That's what we kind of see on our side, because it's difficult to really get things threaded properly. And there's just something about having that real time back and forth that's different from a discussion. So I would think that a blended course would need some sort of synchronous face-to-face element to really work well. Those are my thoughts with it.
Mm-hmm. Any other panelists have any ideas to contribute? You good? Go ahead, Beatriz. Yeah.
Yes, so when it comes to innovation, and now that our faculty are transitioning to OER, they're coming up with all these wonderful ideas on how to engage our students. For the most part, we would always say discussions. But now they're using podcasts, now with AI evolving so much, faculty are just implementing all these different types of ideas. And at our institution, we're also looking for different ways to improve the discussions. But I don't think discussions is just the only thing we can use. So as far as other types are I know one of our training that we have, our new technology training, is on the Padlet. So there's other engaging ways that our students can learn. We also have the Mentimeter. We also have different scenarios that our students can implement. So as long as our students are engaging, and eventually you're going to have a discussion over what the students are learning. But in a blended course, I think there's so much potential, so many possibilities. And actually, there's a quote I wanted to share with our community, and that's by Ms. Karen Janowski. Give me 1 second. So, and this is what she says, it's not about the tools, it's about the possibilities. So we can use all these wonderful tools, but can you imagine all the possibilities? And now even more so with open educational resources, our faculty literally have the freedom to create and implement at the same time, keep the quality, the QM standards and par for our students' benefits.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Ginger?
There's a follow-up on this same question. It says we have on-site lectures in the blended courses. Isn't this interaction? And a follow-up to that, can QM send an email on examples of interactions?
Yeah, I'm going to find the answers to both of those and make sure that we include those in our replies.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Oh, there goes a floating heart. All right. We are going to move along to our next question. I'm loving the interaction, the dialogue. It's just fantastic. So we know that both of these organizations have adopted ReadSpeaker, and we thank you so much for your partnership and what you're doing for learners. So let's talk about which tools are most beneficial when it comes to meeting the QM standards from a student perspective. We talked a lot about from a teacher perspective or a designer perspective or an administrative perspective, but from a student perspective, what are the most impactful tools? And Paula, I'm going to let you lead us off here.
Sure. So we have found that the language translation tool is incredibly helpful for a variety of reasons. From ELL students to students who are learning a second language, to even some of our adults who may have to review a language course that is a higher level, or maybe a course that they're not familiar with. Maybe an adult that is needing to step in as a substitute for a teacher for a short time. It's particularly helpful for our rural schools that don't have an ESL teacher or person who can work with those students, because they can be enrolled with us and have their content translated in real time for them, with the touch of a button into their native language. We've also seen that it's really helpful for emerging readers, for struggling readers, and again, for those ELL students to hear pages read to them with the ability not only to control the voice and the language, but also to control the speed at which the page is read to them. I actually had a conversation recently with our special populations coordinator and our student success counselor about ReadSpeaker. They've got tons of stories to share about how ReadSpeaker has been helpful for them, but I thought one was quite short and especially powerful. So I wanted to just share with you what our special populations coordinator said. And quoting this, she said, "Last year, I had a facilitator reach out to me due to a student's reading level. They were really struggling to understand the material. I walked them through how to use ReadSpeaker, and the facilitator had the student start using it regularly. The student went from a low D average to a high C average in a short period of time and required a lot less assistance from the facilitator to be able to complete their coursework." So things like that are just huge successes for us, for students who maybe have not even gotten the level of support that they need locally over time, but this tool is allowing them to have a support that they wouldn't have otherwise, or wouldn't have to the degree that they need otherwise.
Excellent. I love that story. Whenever we can share stories of student successes, it's hopeful, it's inspirational, and it can lead just to future successes there. So that is wonderful. Candace, did you want to add something?
Just a few points to echo what Paula said and kind of harken back to that standard that I mentioned we struggle with, tying back to UDL and identity, like you were saying, Colleen. Simply by including these reading tools, we're giving students another access point to really relate their own needs to the content, to relate their own identity to the content, whether it's the translation tool or even in the story you just heard, a student reading behind grade level. And in the state of Arkansas, we, in the K-12 space, have a high number of students that are below grade level in reading. And we're all of the educators are actively working to change that and to really help our students climb out of that. But these tools are invaluable in those cases. We originally adopted ReadSpeaker because we wanted to meet like those federal accommodation standards for students that require read alouds. And there was difficulty with the facilitator having time to do that and our teacher having time to do that and coordinating with the student. But the student having control is a big piece, and being able to do that independently is huge and helps them really connect with their learning.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We are just, we had the privilege of joining the CAST organization at their UDL-Con, and one of the components that they were seeing that was missing across the board is lack of student agency when it comes to students really taking ownership of their own learning journey. And I feel that agency is going to increase when they can see themselves in the content and they can interact with it that is going to best suit their needs. We talk about students that are in sort of these identified populations, but we have a slew of learners that are just reading below grade level. They just are struggling with decoding or with comprehension. When the text is read aloud, students can concentrate on the content versus struggling through the decoding. Does it replace reading instruction? Absolutely not. Does not replace literacy instruction. But when we're looking at supporting content in history, in physics, in some of our more rigorous vocabulary content courses, the read aloud is going to help support learners with comprehension of that material. Beatriz, I'm going to let you take a minute or two or three and add something to this conversation.
Yes, well, there's so many student stories that that I can share with you. But really quickly, this happened recently. I was taking a lunch. Usually I have lunch with my husband. I was sitting at the lunch table. One of the things our president told us when she came on board was to go to the Kaizen, and at the South Campus, it's actually the Billy Hall. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna go down to the Billy Hall. And we use our IDs, right? So I was sitting there eating lunch that day. My husband couldn't join me. And at the table next to me, the student looked like super frustrated, was looking at their computer. And she looks at me and she's like, "Do you work here?" Like, "Yes, I do." And then she's like, "What do you do?" So I tell her, "Oh, I'm an instructional designer and I work with eLearning." "Oh, you guys oversee Canvas, right?" And so I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "Can I ask you something?" And I was like, "Yes." I don't understand what I'm reading. What can I do? And she's like, my eyes are just super tired. So one of the tools that our students, that we encourage our students to use is the doc reader. So she was reading a PDF from her class. And so once I mentioned ReadSpeaker, she was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm gonna download the extension." And so with our institution, with the integration, we have it to where they click on TextAid and it's included in all our courses. So all our students have access to TextAid. And so, you know, one little simple conversation, that interaction with the students led to this great benefit for them. And so we want to make sure that our students receive the best of the tools that we have implemented at our institution. We really want to make an impact. And recently in our team meetings, we've been thinking of different solutions, how we can advocate and reach out to more students. And one of the things that we plan on doing is have it like, have you heard like the minute to win it? Well, it would be the minute to e-learn it. Or in case you didn't know, now you e-learn it. So we want to think outside the course, thinking outside the box. We want to make sure that all the tools that we're implementing are used and beneficial for our students. So one of the tools that I find most remarkable for them to use are our ReadSpeaker tools, which are the ReadSpeaker player, the ReadSpeaker doc reader, and of course the extension, more so now with our OER resources.
Yeah, fantastic. And through the integration into Canvas, they can access content all over the Canvas environment. And then with the TextAid solution, they now have that ReadSpeaker support when they're outside of that Canvas environment. So fantastic. Absolutely. Ginger.
Couldn't get my mouse to the right place. Sorry about that. We had a question about struggling with having download to MP3 and translate and dictionary turned on in quizzes. And I want to follow up on this myself and say, in most learning management systems, we can turn those tools off for quizzes, but they're available for the rest of the environment. And if you're struggling with that, please reach out directly to me and I can help you get that resolved.
Excellent. Very good. Another
Can I mention something real
yes,
quick?
go right ahead, Beatrice.
Yeah, regarding what Miss Ginger just said, when we met with Miss Ginger, that was actually one of the recommendations that was given to us, and you all went into the course, into our testing environment to make sure that, you know, because it's a language course, right? So for the language courses, you all made sure that the ReadSpeaker functions were turned off, and so that's really greatly appreciated. So yes, it is doable to prevent the cheating from foreign languages in ReadSpeaker. And I also wanted to add one more thing regarding the tools. Here at Laredo College, we're promoting student success, sense of belonging, and wellness. And this summer, we launched our LEAD program. So I can't wait for all the magnificent things that are coming with that LEAD. But our department, our team, we're involved with what are called the eLearning hubs. And, you know, we've been, again, thinking outside the course, how our tools can be implemented. And one of the things that we're promoting, or that I'm actually suggesting that we promote, is the MP3 downloads. So imagine our students working out, studying, and listening to their lectures, learning at the same time. So that's going to be a great impact for our students coming up.
Outstanding. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because there are so many different ways that we can use ReadSpeaker to support student learning and student success. And we also, what was mentioned earlier, is using ReadSpeaker in those language courses, because not only are students learning English, sometimes our students are learning another language. So it's good for all students and all learners. Okay, we have just one more question. And so let's take a peek at what this looks like. So have any specific populations of learners showed an increased benefit when designing with the QM standards? Any particular population? We know that it's good for all, but are you seeing particular strides in one area or another? Any thoughts on that? And I'll just toss it to the whole group here. What do you think? Any ideas? Specific populations. Paula, Candace, can we think of-
My mind is turning in that I see such great impact across the board. It's really difficult for me to drill down to a specific group. I feel like I could name any group and probably find a way, one way or another. So let me just put it out there. We have a partnership with the Arkansas School for the Blind and the Arkansas School for the Deaf, and I can say that their students enroll with some of our classes. We had a blind student take computer science and a programming course, and was successful at that. We've had like testimonies from students from that campus talk about how when they attended courses within the school, they kind of felt treated a little bit like a patient, and being able to log into an online course with another program, they were just like any other student, but the tools were in place to help them succeed. So that's a success story there, specifically to one student from the Arkansas School for the Blind that had that. But I can say it's really fueled our relationship with that group, and we have lots of conversation about quality accessibility. They use all kinds of tools. They do use ReadSpeaker. They also use other readers. They print out things in Braille. Like, there are a lot of different needs that they have. But I think just our involvement with ReadSpeaker, bringing in QM and the best practices for accessibility, making sure our alt text is up to par. And Paula talked about it a little bit earlier, and how it's really difficult in certain courses to get that. But I think we've seen improvements in that population.
Outstanding. Very good. Any other thoughts about specific populations? And that is okay. That tells us that we are looking at instruction through the lens of UDL, and we are seeing benefits for all learners. So that's fantastic. I am going to ask Ginger, are there any other questions of note that have come through that we may want to discuss, or we'll just continue on with the presentation and wind it all up?
All right, I'd like to handle this one question. The question is, what is the difference between Google's ReadSpeaker and the ReadSpeaker product? That's hard to say, but the difference between Google and ReadSpeaker primarily is we can read your LMS in any browser, where if you're using Google, you've got to be in Chrome. Another aspect is we provide accessibility tools. We provide voices that come from voice actors, so they're more accurate, or we can adjust the pronunciation if something is not pronounced correctly. And we provide data that is available on a daily basis. It is de-identified, so you know what's being used, you just don't know the who. Mm-hmm. And the other questions coming in, I'll answer in the chat.
Okay, very good. Very good, absolutely. And mentioned a couple of times throughout our conversation here today is the ability to work with Ginger to have solutions remedied and challenges remedied and customized for your own institution. So we are going to just finish up here. We have 5 minutes. So we've talked about this. So what we would like to do is offer you all an opportunity to kick the tires with a ReadSpeaker sandbox account in your own test environment with your own content No strings attached. Excuse me, just take a peek around and see and imagine the potential, right? I think Beatrice, you said something from Karen. It's not about the tools, it's about the potential, right? What can we do for our students when the right tools are in place? So please feel free to reach out to us. We thank you all very much for being here. I'm going to leave this up on the screen here as we wind down our last 5 minutes. I encourage anyone that may have a question to go ahead and pop that in the chat. We look forward to hearing from you. And yeah, we've got some resources here. And Ginger, go ahead. And why don't you just take us home?
All right. Throughout this whole webinar, we have talked about the QM standards and how we need to be working on the QM standards and CAST and all the things like that. And this brought me to a thought about Dr. Aisha Haynes at the University of South Carolina in Columbia. And she is the Assistant Director for the Center of Teaching Excellence. She's given many talks on why you should make your courses and work accessible. And yes, there are lawsuits that can happen to you, but you should do it just because it's the right thing to do. And that's what the One Ed Tech quote that Colleen, you used at the beginning is also relating to. So keep in mind when someone says, why do I have to do this? It's the right thing to do. And Colleen, I'll toss it back to you.
Excellent. Well, we thank you all so very much for giving us your time here today. Please reach out to Ginger or myself if we can be of assistance, if we can answer questions. A big shout out to our panelists. Thank you so much. Quick little round of applause here for you. And also to Jim. Thank you so much for being our gracious host here today. We truly appreciate all that you do for us and with us. And we will be there at the conference in November. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
All the little claps are making me smile so much.
I know. I love it. I love it. Fantastic.